If you're going to be the company that is able to provide them a 50% deposit, if you're going to be the company that is able to pay them the fastest, they're going to prioritize your company to get the work done the fastest. Morning, Diego. So heavy season has passed, and now is the time to discuss the lessons learned of heavy season, in particularly make readies. So what are the lessons we've learned? We're seeing a lot of people asking questions online about, hey, how are you guys doing your make readies? This year was a big mess. How can we improve? What are some tips and tricks? So in this video, I would like to discuss how we handle make readies and what are some of the few things that we implemented that dramatically sped up the make ready process. Morning, Diego.
Morning, everyone. Yeah, this is a really good subject because we've seen, especially when we start with new clients, we see that there is a lack of processes, right, that hinder the make readies from being done in a timely manner. Most companies out there, they're averaging 1 to 2 months on make readies. That's what we've seen, right? So this is an important topic. I hope this podcast, video helps everyone, that's struggling with make readies. So yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, because that's true, right? So the 1 to 2 months, that means 1 to 2 months of no revenue for your owner. So it can basically completely deplete your yearly profit for an owner. So it is really up to us to make sure that that time is reduced to the max, right? So we're seeing turnaround times for make readies on average around 10 to 12 days. So how do we achieve that? What are some of the things that we do to get to those great KPIs?
Yeah, so the easiest thing you could do is pre-scheduling so that you already know the exact date so that you can actually schedule the inspection to be done the following day and for the make ready vendor to go one day after that. So most companies have their property managers handling those inspections, and they also handle adding a lockbox to the property, or they either have internal inspection teams. That's what we've seen so far. So those companies can take advantage of the move out date because we've seen that the tenant moves out and then they schedule the inspection and they schedule adding a lockbox later that week or the following week. That's a loss of so many days, right? So if you can get your team to schedule as soon as the tenant moves out, one day after, well, guess what? You're going to be super efficient because then you're going to be able to send out your make ready vendor the following day, right? It's
Oh,
just a matter of efficiency. And
yeah.
this reduces a make ready by so many days.
Okay, so tenant indicates, hey guys, I am ending my lease. So according to the tenant leases, they should let you know 30 days or 60 days in advance, right? Usually it's 30 days. So tenant says, hey, Mr. Property Manager, I'm moving out. Great. What happens then? Then we reach out to the vendor saying like, hey, on X date, day zero, the tenant is planned to move out. So we reach out to the property manager like, hey, can you confirm that you can go on day 0 plus 1? Yes. Okay, great. Hey, Mr. Vendor, the property manager is going to inspect the home on day 0 plus 1. Can you go on +2? Oh yeah, sure. Great, I can. Can you also schedule some time to create that estimate same day so we can nip it in the bud and get it done as soon as possible? Yes, they agree. So what happens now is, okay, tenant moves out, great. PM the next day goes and does their inspection. Day after, the vendor then does their inspection, and now you have, it's day 3, day 4, and you already have the estimate ready, right? Now the owner has 1, 2, 3 days, or you can get another bid if needed based on that first estimate, and then it goes on. So that allows us to get the work started within 7 to 10 days, right?
Exactly. And that's a very important one. The vendors sending the estimates in a timely manner. You would be surprised by how many times we've seen vendors are super fast at getting to the property and, getting that inspection done. But when it comes to sending the actual report, sending the actual estimate, it takes so many days and no one is pressing on their necks to get those estimates, right? So That's a must. You need to make sure that you set the right expectations with those vendors to ensure that they're actually sending you the estimate in a timely manner. It shouldn't take more than 48 hours after they visited the home. And then the other one is sending the estimate to the owners and making sure they understand how important it is for them to approve or deny the estimate. You, as a property manager, you know which vendors you're going to utilize. You know which vendors give you the best pricing. If you don't, that's your homework right there, right?
Yeah.
But since you know who you're going to be utilizing and you know who gives you the best pricing and who's going to be saving the owner the most money, if the owner pushes back on that estimate, you also need to push back on the owner. Hey, Mr. Owner, out of our 5 or 10 make ready vendors, this is the best vendor. They provide the best pricing. So if you want to get a second or third estimate, it's just going to be a waste of time because they're going to be more expensive and it's going to waste your money because every day that the home sits vacant, you're losing X amount. If you
Mm.
want to get that X amount, divide the rent by 30 days and then get the actual number and multiply it by the days it takes to get those estimates. On average, it takes
$70,
yeah,
maybe a little bit less, but 60, $70. Yeah.
per day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But on average, it takes what, 4 5 days additional to get another estimate.
Hmm.
So then now you're, multiply that by five. Well, you're wasting a lot of money. So
Hmm.
the owner might be like, oh, yeah, I want to save money on the estimate, but you're actually losing money by having the home sitting without being able to show it. And that's what's happening in the industry so much. The homes are sitting vacant for 1 to 2 months. Owners are leaving companies because the homes are not being rented out fast enough. And so it's a domino effect, snowball effect that you can fix by focusing on reducing the time frames and making sure that you educate the owners, educate the vendors, and even your internal teams, the PMs or the inspectors, so that everyone knows what to do, when to do it, and in that way the make ready can be done in an efficient timeline.
Okay. So we have the pre-scheduling, which is a huge time saver because now everybody is already aligned before the date is even there. What else can we do to save time? It's a little bit of a less obvious one, but I think it's important. And you kind of mentioned it already. It's reporting the estimates correctly to your owners. So if the estimates are super detailed, so rather than make ready $20,000, okay, that's not going to work. That's an extreme, of course. But then somewhere between that extreme and then every single line in detail noted on the estimate, that's where we want to be, and as closest to that as possible. So what is that? How is that going to decrease your turnaround time for make readies? Well, if an owner reads two estimates, one is super detailed and another one is not detailed, the super detailed one he'll read, he'll understand, he'll have the right questions to ask, if any, and he'll be able to make a decision much faster. If you're going to work with a vendor that just says make ready $15,000 and there's no other explanation, well, he's going to ask for a second bid. It's just guaranteed. So you're already guaranteed to add 3 4 days to that bid, because if the estimate is not detailed enough, you can also not ask another vendor, hey, can you write an estimate based on this description? No, because it's not detailed enough, right? So you're looking at 3 4 5 days extra already. So make sure that the vendors you work with are educated or trained on how you would like to see the reporting, how detailed you would like it to be. And if they don't do that, just work with another vendor. There are vendors out there who know what they're doing. So that's going to help reduce your turnaround time by a lot as well. Easy.
Yeah. No, 100%. If you break down the estimates item by item so that the owner can actually see how much they're getting charged per item, it's going to, you know, increase the approval rate. But on top of that, if you have the vendor or your team letting the owner know which things you recommend, which things are a must and what other things you recommend, and which ones you can actually, remove from the estimate, that's a huge, huge plus, because now you can break it down to the owner of what is truly needed at the property. And that way they know, okay, from this estimate that I'm receiving, let's say it's 3,000. Well, the must and the recommended amount is maybe 1,500, and the additional little things could be, the additional cost. So now the owner doesn't see an estimate of 3,000; they see an estimate of 1,000 and some change. That will make their decision easier, and then they could take a look at those additional items and see what they want to fix right now, that doesn't affect the living conditions of the property, and that it's rent ready to go.
So when you're reaching out to the vendor to pre-schedule the work order, you can also already ask, or maybe when they send out the estimate, okay, if we get this estimate approved today or tomorrow, when can you start? That way, the vendor can commit to that as well, and you kind of have an agreement there. We do that whenever the estimate is received, right? So the vendor knows how much work it is, and they can actually gauge when it can be done, right?
Yeah, basically,
Okay.
because you want the vendors to commit to what they're submitting. And that's one of the things that PMCs are lacking, right? They are not utilizing vendors that they can trust to commit to the job right away. So sometimes you get a vendor, they go to the property super fast, they send you the estimate super fast, but then when it comes to actually getting the job started, they tell you, oh, we're 2 weeks behind or 3 weeks behind. You can't waste that time, right? Only
Mhm.
utilize vendors that can actually commit to doing the job that same week, or at the very latest the following week, if it took a couple of days for the owner to give you approval.
And then something that we always bring up is vendor payments. That could also speed up the process. And why is that? Because if you're paying vendors, let's say, and especially with make readies, those invoices, those estimates, they tend to be a lot higher than our regular work orders, right? With an average of around, I don't know, $1,000 to $2,000, up to $15,000. It just depends. And on top of that, these jobs, they're very seasonal. So most of the make readies happen during summer, when people move in for in between schools. So that means that those vendors, they're super busy during that time. So if you're going to be the company that is able to provide them a 50% deposit, if you're going to be the company that is able to pay them the fastest, they're going to prioritize your company to get the work done the fastest. So that's just another way. It's not an obvious one, but it's a very important one nonetheless. And especially, you can literally leverage that with your vendors. You're like, hey, listen, I understand that you work with many property management companies, right? Because you're the best in our town. Great. But how do we get priority from you? Would it help if we pay out, I don't know, within 5 days after the job is completed? Would it help if we pay 50% deposit? Would that help at all in our relationship? Could we get bumped up? Yes or no? Those are just conversations you can have. We're all human beings. We're running businesses, and they will most likely say, yes, that would help because the other property management companies, they're paying me after 60 days. If you're telling me you're paying me after 5 days of completing the job, yes, I will prioritize you. And maybe they're like, no, then too. It doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt to have that conversation, right?
Yeah, you would be surprised by how that affects the turnaround times for vendors.
Hmm.
Because if they know they complete that job today and that they will expect the payment um, early next week, well, they're going to be, working their asses off to get that done and then to get the next one. So it's crucial in the industry. When you pay vendors faster, even if you're a smaller PMC, they will make you a priority. It's a
Yeah.
fact.
And especially with make readies, you also have leverage with with your owners. You're like, hey, Mr. Owner, listen, we have this special deal with this vendor. First of all, they're really cheap, so they're great at quality. But the most important thing here for us is to get your turnaround time down. So what we're going to be doing, especially or only for make readies, so you can get rent as soon as possible, we're going to ask you for a contribution the same day that you approve the estimate. So when you approve the estimate, just show us that you wired the remaining of the funds on top of whatever rent or whatever balance you have with the property management company, and then we will get started. They'll do it. And if they don't, they don't have money, so you shouldn't be doing it either way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So those are a few things that will definitely help you decrease your turnaround times. Look, I have never run a property management company, but we work with a lot of them. And I can assume that if word gets around that your company does turns in 10 days, and by the way, if when you're prospecting for new landlords or new owners, maybe you have some KPIs that you can show them. Hey, our turnaround times are 10 days. Here's the data. Here's the proof. Man, they'll love you because now they already know that every time a tenant renews or there's a new tenant moving in, they know they're already saving 20 days compared to another company. 20 days times 60, $1,800 or $1,200, right? So yeah, they already know. And they also know that if you have maintenance in order, most likely all the rest is good too, because maintenance is probably the most thing to handle. And if you have a seasoned landlord, they know what's up.
Yeah, everyone, I hope this is valuable to you. It should help you speed up your make readies. If you're above 14 days, take a look at your numbers, take a look at where you can improve, because a make ready should not be older than 14 days on average.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. See you next time. Peace.
See you, everyone.